All right, everybody, we are going to get started. Thank you guys so much for choosing to take time out of your day to come hang out with Ted and I. For those of you who might not have ever met me in person, my name is Lori. This is Ted Cheeseman, and we are here today to talk to you about the Antarctic Experience's first hand-picked expedition for our community members. And as some of you know, for being in the community, our group is all about Antarctica. So we are about education and news, inspiration, helping you prep for an expedition, helping you find work if you want to go to a research station, and most importantly, helping advocate for the seventh continent, because we hope that everyone who comes to the community can be another person who can be an Antarctic ambassador. We recently launched our sister group called From Bucket List to Booked, and I know some of you are also in that community as well. And that is focused on helping you one-on-one to get the perfect match for an expedition for you. But in thinking about all the different expeditions out there and knowing that in the Antarctic Experience, we don't exclusively endorse one operator. We do have opinions about what expeditions are super special, and we wanted to bring those to our community. And so what we decided to do was curate some very special expeditions and offer them to you with some bonuses if you decide to go on these expeditions. And so if you stick around till the end of the meeting, I will let you know what these bonuses are. Why this one? Why this first one with Ted? So before I let Ted talk, I'll just tell you a little bit about why we chose this expedition to be the first one that we are handpicking for our members. And you know, many of you know I am an expedition guide, and I've been working in Antarctica for 15 years, literally only half the time Ted's been down there. But in that time, I've met a lot of very, very talented guides, and I've worked for a number of different operators. And there are some certain expeditions that I think are extra special for different reasons. And if I were going on an expedition, this is the one that I would choose for myself. So this is why we picked this. I picked this along with a couple other advisors. We picked this as our first handpicked, curated expedition for our community members, because it's the one that I would go on. And I'm a little biased. And why would I go on this? I'm not going to steal Ted's thunder because he's going to tell us all about it. But Ted and his team provide tons of time in the field. And that is super, super important to me. I mean, I'm in Antarctica to spend time with nature, out on deck, out in the zodiacs, out at landings, and as much time as I possibly can. I love the fact that this expedition is 100 guests with 15 leaders, which is a ratio that's pretty unheard of in the industry. And most of all, I love that the operator, Ted Cheeseman's Ecology Safaris, how much they're dedicated to education and science and conservation. So I'm just going to let Ted take it from here. And yeah, I could keep talking, but I want you to talk. Tell everybody about this expedition and why it's so special, Ted.
Cool. Well, thank you, Laurie. Yeah, super pleased to have folks here. And yeah, so let's see. I have a PowerPoint to share. If I may share my screen.
Absolutely.
A bit of funny bouncing icons here. And we'll dive into it. I think we ought to have time for questions and all that as well. Why am I not seeing Zoom share screen button? There we go. No. Okay, is this effectively, are you seeing two slides or one?
I am seeing one. I'm seeing.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Good, great. Yeah, okay. So why this trip? I mean, it's a neat position to be in, honestly, like you, Lori, the now many years of going to Antarctica. I first had a chance to go. My parents were expedition leaders. Both of my parents passed away within the last year, but they, when I was quite young, started, my father was a zoology professor and started a wildlife safari company. And so I grew up where, you know, dad was teaching all year, and then summers parents were off on safari. And then once I was 10, I sort of got to tag along, thinking I was like, I'm working on a safari. Well, I was 10. It's like, it's probably a little annoying, but in time I came to learn a lot about these places and be an assistant guide, and then ultimately a guide and expedition leader. And now I own the company, but I'm also I actually spend very little time managing Cheeseman's ecology safaris, because most of my work now is as a whale scientist. So in the arc of this, it's really Antarctica that has and my experience there that has been the sort of transformative force in my life. And kind of this image right here, this whale up alongside of our vessel, this kind of experience, or a little video I'll show here in a moment, has been kind of these transformative events that that have taken me from being, I was actually in school, and as a child I actually did a book report on Charles Darwin's Voyage of the Beagle when I was a little kid, total nerdy kid. I thought this was the coolest thing ever. I wanted to go get lost in tropical rainforests and be like learning about biology and sending insights back to the rest of the world. But it turns out that I love rainforests from afar, but I don't like being in them nearly as much as I did as a kid. But then I got malaria, I had mold growing on me, all kinds of stuff like this. And at the end of the day, I actually like Antarctica a whole lot more. And I overcame seasickness, that helped as well. But so this kind of experience, and I'll just play this little video just to give you kind of a sense of what I consider a good day at the office in this kind of work. A little bit of context. We saw these two whales from far away, and just approach them slowly. We have very specific rules about how to interact when there's whales in the water, in order to basically responsibly not disturb their behavior. So we were about probably 250 meters, 250 yards away from these whales, and they dove and disappeared, and then came up right next to us. So this is being photographed with a wide angle lens.
Wow. I know those moments. Those are the best. They're the best when they just surprise you out of nowhere and they're like, hi.
Yeah, I'm not, this is, the laughter is me just not really knowing how to process this in terms of, this, what we call a whale mugging, where all the engines have to be off. I love this because the two women standing up there, the woman in the Mustang suit, in the orange suit, she will be expedition staff aboard. She's Australian, and coming over for the voyage. Amazing guide. And the two ladies standing up are best friends from California. The woman with the most surprised look on her face runs a whale watch company, right? So she's out whale watch guiding every day, or 4 or 5 days a week here in Monterey Bay, as captain, drives a boat. And this kind of inspiration of having, these two whales basically coming up and mugging the boat, it's like, it's that raw. And I don't know, it's something about being in this icy environment where we know that, it's sort of an environment dominated by storms, or so the stories go, the harsh weather. And yet these kind of mirror glassy seas are actually remarkably common. And then getting mugged by a whale, if you have the time, if you go about the expedition in a way that doesn't have you rushing here, rushing back to the ship, and there's 400 people aboard, we got to get everyone out in turns. You get half an hour ashore, an hour ashore. this kind of thing, if you have the time to be out in the field, events like this, I'm not going to say they're common, but they definitely happen. And so really, after now 30 years of doing this, well, first, I was really fortunate. My parents, the way they organized nature travels was a maximum of time in the field. So this was how we started, but also just learning. And I've guided for other companies, and I've been present as like checking out ships for other companies. And, you know, everyone has their style, and lots of the styles of other trips I think are good for those who desire, say, maybe more looking interested in cocktail hour aboard the ship. You know, our cocktail hours are a little bit quieter, that maybe because most people are still off the ship. But for me, this is why I go, to be out in the field. So a little bit of an arc of the story here. Antarctica was where most whales in the world lived. Excuse me, 120 years ago, before industrial whaling started. And industrial whaling was this thing that literally came and just removed all of the whales. You know, this is a fleet of catcher vessels of the Soviet fleet, the processing factory ship. And it's kind of, this is kind of the history here, where, you know, over the course of the last century, we saw these incredible resources, the huge fish, the huge whale, scooped them all up and left just a few animals. So this is the only graph I'll show on this little talk, but this is literally what happened was industrial whaling came, developed the technology, removed the whales. Whales were mostly made into, absurdly enough, margarine and fertilizer and dog food and such. But then the whaling industry became unprofitable, fortunately, and then anti-whaling laws in various forms around the world were passed. And so, to make a very, very long story short, it began this really long and slow recovery that is now accelerated, because once the whales were, most species were knocked down from somewhere in the 5% to a fraction of a percent. Blue whales in the Antarctic, there were probably 250,000 before whaling started. After whaling, there were probably 300. So that's the equivalent of, say, take a town of 10,000 people and leave 10 people to repopulate the town, or 12 people. So what I love about the way we are experiencing this now is that, you know, we are showing up kind of more or less in similar numbers to the whalers, but just to experience the whales live and really very actively paying attention to not disturbing their behavior, observing their behavior, watching it, and in my case, actually very actively involved in science of better understanding the animals. So the rough trajectory of the expedition, I mean, this is an expedition. We will tell you each evening our plans for the next day. And then in the morning at 5 a.m., when we see the weather, we'll change those plans, or we'll adapt them, or maybe we'll keep going with them as is. But we'll start in Ushuaia, Argentina, which is what you see at the top of the map there. Travel south across the Drake Passage. That's typically a night, and a half, or 2 nights and a day and a half, 500 miles across the open ocean there. Sometimes it's super, super calm. Sometimes it's rough. Usually it's kind of somewhere about in between, where if you're prone to seasickness, take seasick medication, maybe you sleep a fair bit more. If you're into it, there's incredible sea life there, the albatross, the seabirds, the potential for seeing sperm whales, beaked whales, killer whales, blue whales, fin whales, humpbacks as well, dolphins near the coastal areas in South America, and then lots and lots of seabirds in the open ocean. And we'll have lectures aboard, have a strong series of preparing for Antarctica, getting to know what's going on, getting to, you know, a lot of depth of information from our expedition staff, which is, as Lori said, we have a really diverse and strong, a big expedition staff, which I really love, to be able to not just show you this here wandering albatross, but help you understand, how is it that the largest wingspan bird in the world can live and thrive in this open ocean environment. So once we get to the Antarctic Peninsula, at the top of the screen there, you see the South Shetland Islands. The numbers here are landings and Zodiac cruises and visits along from a previous expedition. We'll typically first spend a little bit of time in the South Shetland Islands because it's the first landing spot. It's a more South Atlantic environment, so a more oceanic environment. Maybe spend a day or two there and then travel south across the Bransfield Strait, which is that kind of central northern body of water, until we get down into the Gerlache Straits. And that's the inside passage between Brabant and Anvers Island and then the Antarctic continent there. So that where the line gets really zigzag back and forth, that is this kind of joyful, not kind of, this very, very joyful space where we often have very calm waters because it's protected from the open ocean. There's lots of icebergs in the water, and the two together, the protection of fringing islands and then all the bergs in the water, really dampen any kind of swell. So you get this glassy, calm environment that is also incredibly productive, where krill concentrate in big numbers to breed under sea ice in the wintertime, and consequently the whales come to eat that krill in a food web that we'll talk in great depth about. So we're out there in Zodiacs day after day, lots of Zodiac cruising. This voyage travels at the heart of the whale season. It's actually later in the season. You might get 5 or 10% more whale abundance, but the day length starts getting a lot shorter. So to me, this is, for whales in the marine environment, absolutely the ideal time of year to go. There's still very much penguin season. It's getting towards the end of the penguin breeding season. So we will see lots of penguins around, and the opportunities for photography are just pretty mind-boggling, honestly. These are just a series of fun photos over the years. Sometimes stormy conditions, which you can kind of hunker down and say, ooh, it's nasty, I don't want to go out. But if we can go out safely, sometimes it provides images and scenes that are great for drama. I personally, I don't put much stock in my own photography. I'm a quite capable documentary photographer. I'm not an artistic photographer. So images like this, to me, it's just trying to capture the mood of the animal and the mood of the scene. But in terms of the real art of photography, we will have several photographers aboard who are very capable in that space, and very much delighted to aboard ship, in the field, both work with you and say, cool, this is how, look, let's line up the Zodiac. Actually, that's one thing that's very important to me, having a big staff. All of our staff are really keenly aware of, how do you line up a Zodiac to get you a good photograph? Those who are really keen on pushing their own photography further, you end up spending more time with our professional photographer staff, so that you're out there, getting the light right, that kind of thing. Again, I'm not going to advertise these as amazing photographs, but I do have a lot of fun with it. Those are Adelie penguin, Gentoo penguin, Adelie penguin, leopard seal. Of course, we'll have quite a bit of background and knowledge about each animal seen. Leopard seals are one of the largest of the true seals. Intense animals. When you have them around your Zodiac, they are this intense creature that we actually have a very specific, protocol for what to do in a Zodiac when there's a leopard seal around. Mostly they're playful. I have never seen overt antagonism of a leopard seal attacking, but their playfulness, when you take basically 1,000-pound animal that has a demeanor, I suppose, a bit like a pit bull, playful, but pretty intense. It's not a thing to, there was actually a snorkeler, a researcher killed many years ago now, because I think the leopard seal was just playing with her. So awesome to see, and something to be respected. Weddell seal. We will see crab eater seals, leopard seals, Weddell seals, elephant seals, southern fur seals. And then the part of the whole place that to me ultimately just defies description, and you kind of just have to be there to experience, is just this environment. From the detail, this is a very, very old iceberg that formed deep in a glacier. It's probably water that had melted and then refrozen to get this kind of intense blue. To the landscape, this space where, again, you know, we could go on a trip where it's like you get ashore, you rush around, you see it, check, you had your picture taken with a penguin. But to me, much more enjoyable is to be able to spend the time ashore, experience the sunset set ashore, take the time, enjoy the space, and just let these incredible, the sunsets that literally last hours and bleed into a sunrise as the polar days stretch long. It is an experience on a scale that it's changed my life, changes it and changes it again and again and again. I became ultimately a whale biologist focused on polar regions just because of the love of being there, and the experience of being there, raising questions of, here we are enjoying this space, but what is it that makes this ecosystem tick? I mean, in a scene like this is kind of an abiotic scene. You don't see anything living other than humans as marine mammals here, but there's so much living in this environment. These are some of the most productive waters in the world, which brings me kind of to the science of the last sector of this little talk, which is about the science that we'll be doing aboard. And this is something that I very much welcome every traveler to engage in, or just listen to and learn from, or ignore completely. It's completely up to you. But I'm in the middle of a PhD. I'm actually hopefully near the end of a PhD. I may actually have my doctorate by the time we go on this trip, if I'm fairly efficient between now and then. And I've been doing my PhD using data gathered from these voyages, from all Antarctic expeditions that are participating, and images gathered around the world from marine mammal scientists, research collaborators, and citizen scientists, which is the role that we can play aboard, which is that every single humpback whale is individually identifiable. So these, let's see, what is this, 9 different whales. All these tails are of known individuals, right? And so we've gathered a database of 70,000 whales around the world. That's probably a quarter of the world's population of humpback whales, roughly speaking. Most of my research, because of existing data sets, is on the North Pacific, with a smaller part of it on the South Pacific, including Antarctica. But so what we've done is we built automated image recognition so that we can identify each of these whale tails. You can do this manually, but once you have a database of 70,000 whales, it takes a really long time to identify any individual. Or maybe you find a match, but if you don't find a match, how do you know that you didn't just miss it, which within 70,000 individuals would take hours and hours and hours. So I'm simplifying the story here quite a bit, but in short, what this allows us to do is track whales through their lifespan and see where they migrate to. So here's the collected data for the Antarctic Peninsula and the Antarctic region as a whole. On the bottom right, you see the Antarctic Peninsula. Above that, South America, and over to the far left, Australia, New Zealand, and the Ross Sea sector of Antarctica. So what we found, adding this all together, this was already known, but what's been really neat is just adding more data to it to define the rates and nature of the pattern. We know that Antarctic Peninsula whales almost exclusively travel up to the west coast of South America, but there's been some evidence genetically and from a few sightings that some of these whales go out to the Western Pacific, Oceania, and we found the first case of a whale going from the Antarctic Peninsula to Australia. And we know that there's almost none of these whales go to Brazil. I'm pointing to the screen as if you guys can see my fingers. Sorry, I'm still used to giving talks in person to humans instead of computers, but such as it is, so we've published quite a few papers in collaboration with researchers on this data. And the really neat part of it is that the photos that we gather from this trip, we can identify these whales while we're aboard, because we've built the technology into something pretty efficient now. And so oftentimes we can know the story of an individual whale, and then the turnaround of it is that we're really contributing to science to better understand how are these whales recovering. I mentioned the whaling. These populations are very much in flux. They're changing because of recovering from whaling. They're changing because of climate change. They're possibly changing because of the impacts of fishing. There's a krill fishing industry that comes down onto the Antarctic Peninsula. And especially as soon as the tourist season ends, the krill fishers move in, and we don't know what that does. So we will be actively, to me, this is both a moment of an incredible experience. This is actually a minke whale, an incredible experience next to this whale, and also a piece of scientific data that we will share with collaborators around the world to better understand the whales. And honestly, I'm very, very fond of citizen science. I think it is incredibly powerful, both from the point of view of better understanding the animal and helping the world better understand these animals and their ecosystem, but also to enrich and deepen your experience, because these things aren't static. These whales are still hunted to a very limited degree. Antarctic minke whales no longer. Just up until a couple of years ago, they were still hunted in small numbers. They are still hunted by certain coastal fisheries. But in Antarctica, over the last 10 years, almost 20 years, 2004 was the first year we had this experience. This picture was taken in 2006 by a former guide for us, Jerry Corsi. These minke whales started becoming friendly and started approaching our boats, which to me is just the most wonderful thing, because when I first started going down to Antarctica in the early 90s, if we saw a minke whale, it was like, if you weren't looking where the whale came up, you didn't see it. Maybe it came up a second time, that was it. And then in 2004, these whales started coming close to the boats, and we're just going like, wait, what? They don't do this. And look at what a beautiful animal this is. It's got this neat chevron along the belly. Clever creatures that as compared to the larger baleen whales, the humpbacks and the blue whales that gulp masses of open water, these guys take little gulps navigating in amongst sea ice, and really, really clever stuff. We'll talk a lot about the biology of the animals while aboard, time that I don't have here and now. But this experience, I'm showing you again and again and again, whales really close to the boats. These experiences of the whales close to the boats, that's when they come to us. To me, it's really about navigating your vessel, whether it's the whole big ship, our 3,000-ton ship, or just my little 1-ton Zodiac. It's about navigating such that we are not disturbing the animal, understanding the animal's behavior, and if they are interested in engaging, they come to us. And quite frankly, that makes for a much, much better experience than rushing in. Okay, cool, get your photograph. Cool, you got your picture. The animal's freaking out and disturbed and leaves. And, we have this natural experience of the animal coming over to us, as happened with these are called ecotype B killer whales. And the other part of the time in the field like this is just all the people and the stories. It's a really, really great experience. Honestly, I love that we do a bit of a longer trip, a more relaxed trip, that we're not trying to shuttle so many 200, 300, 400 people in and out of landings. 100 people is still a bit of a crowd, but what that allows us to do is have a large enough ship that we have a diversity of expedition staff and 10 Zodiacs, such that we can all be in the field at the same time. I feel like it's a really nice balance. Every other trip that we do as a company is much, much smaller, but for Antarctica, I feel like this is really the right size. And I might play another little video of a different experience of being mugged by a whale, just to end it off here. This whale actually, there's another zodiac a little bit away from here, and we had some guest scientists aboard that zodiac who had just taken a little skin sample of this whale. I love this because they took this tiny little skin sample of the whale by bouncing a dart off its back, and the whale kind of spooked, relaxed, and then came over to us and just, my dog does this in the evening. It's like, oh, snuggle up against the zodiac, snuggle up against me on the rug. And this was just this incredible moment where everyone aboard the Zodiac was just silent. We just had this like, is this really happening? Yeah. And I'd love to invite you to join us on this Antarctic adventure.
Thank you. Thank you, Ted. Oh, it never gets old. I get so excited watching those videos and seeing those pictures, and yeah, it's going to be great. Before we open up to questions, I just want to kind of state that and set some expectations, because I think I'm guilty of this. I want to show all the highlight photos, like all of the different things. Nature is nature. We're going to get what we get. The animals are going to be what they're going to be. I often joke that I can only guarantee that we're going to see ice and penguins when we go to Antarctica. But with that said, one of the things that makes this expedition, I think, extra special, and Ted touched on it, is time gives you opportunity for amazing things to happen. And, when you are at a landing and you have only 100 people on shore, you can stay at that landing for a few hours. And as Ted mentioned, you don't have to do any rotations. And having that time gives the opportunity for you to do multiple things, say go on a hike, or sit and watch the penguins, or just stay in one spot and kind of, let the scene unfold around you. Same with what he was mentioning about not having 9 days, landing days in Antarctica. This is an in-depth expedition where you're going to hit all the highlights, but then you're going to have time to slow down and do kind of extra things if something pops up or presents itself, because you don't only have 4 days, you have 9 days, or 5 days, you have 9 days. So, and that also, at least being a guide and having to change from plan A to plan B to plan C, it also gives Ted, as expedition leader, the flexibility to kind of go to maybe some more off the beaten path places that we don't get to go to all the time, because we're trying to kind of hit the highlights and see a variety. When I say hit the highlights, I mean, we want to take you to a place with lots of big icebergs. We want to take you to, a really awesome penguin colony. We want to take you to a place where the whales frequent. But once we've done that, you have an opportunity to kind of go to some more off the beaten path spots. So just to kind of, set expectations, of course, I'm not going to be on this expedition. I'll be working elsewhere during this, but I'll be certainly thinking of all of you. And, if this expedition doesn't work for you, all of the expeditions are going to provide opportunities to see wildlife. All of them are going to provide lectures. But we did handpick this one to present to you just because it's kind of that little bit next level. The team, experience of the team, the expertise of the team, Ted being the whale guy. If you like whales, you got to sail with Ted, like period, full stop. So, but I just want to make sure that we're setting the right expectations, because it is, it is wild. It is Antarctica, and we can't guarantee that you're going to see anything, but we can give you lots of time to make sure that the opportunities are there. Yeah. So Ted, do you want to say anything else before I open up to questions?
Sure. Well, just yeah, I am guilty of, well, they weren't all sunny day photos because Antarctica is beautiful when it's not a sunny day too. But no, it's I think you're spot on, and it's a challenging environment to me. That's part of what makes it fun is, as an expedition guide, see the weather. Oh, that changes our plan. But hey, there's a sheltered spot where we can get in here, and the peninsula gets quite variable weather where sometimes you move south a little bit, get into a different weather zone, that kind of thing, and the flexibility of the nature of this expedition really allows for that. So yeah, but I'd be delighted to answer any questions. Or
does anyone here have any questions? You can unmute yourself and ask. I have a few that were sort of sent to me before the meeting, but let's open it up to people who are actually here. Don't be shy. We won't bite.
well, I'll take the chance to say hi, Flick. Hi, Felicity.
All right, I'll warm things up a bit. The question, one of the questions that came in was about the ship, and I'll let you answer, but I know this ship well because I have worked on the ship that you guys are going on. So Ted, tell us a little bit about the ship you're going on.
Go for it. Honestly, I think I've just been aboard here for one season, so I'll let you
okay. Yeah. So the ship is the Plancius, and it is an older ship. It's been around for a while, and you almost have to go with some of the older ships nowadays to find the 100 passengers or less. Just to be honest, most of the new builds are taking 200 or even more guests. I like the Plancius a lot because there's a lot of really good viewing opportunities from the ship. You can get right down on the bow, also at the aft, the stern of the ship. There's a nice viewing area out there as well. Easy loading on and off of the Zodiacs, and an excellent crew. I don't know if this is just coincidence or what, but I've seen the most close-up wildlife on Plancius of any ship. I used to joke that they would put like krill oil on the bottom of the ship or something like that, because there's something about, the captain used to say, I think it's, he had some reason why the wildlife like to come up to the Plancius, but the crew is great. The bridge team is great. They're really good at spotting wildlife, helping out the expedition team. So it's a very comfortable ship. It's not a very fancy ship though, but as Ted said, you're not going to be, you're not there for there's not multiple dining rooms. There's one, it's sort of kind of family style. There's the room where you have your presentations, kind of doubles as a hangout room, and there's a bar there. But of course, you've got your 24-hour coffee and tea, and I think most importantly, it's just a really good ship for viewing from, and it's comfortable. Like I said, it's older, but it is definitely comfortable. I really enjoy sailing on her. I don't know. You've been on her how many times, Ted?
Yeah, just a season. But she's chosen from. I've worked with the company who owns her ocean-wide expeditions for many, many, many years. Gosh, since the 90s, and really have good relations with them. We've worked with quite a few of their ships, and yeah, no, I would, if one is going for ship amenities, this is not the trip. Right. There's some really beautiful, fancy new ships and such nowadays. That's not our focus. Is I personally, and I don't have anything against going for the shipboard experience, but we're going to be in Antarctica, which is not to say to sacrifice it, right? It's not like you have to be comfortable, but if you're looking for spa functionality and all that, no, it's not.
Yeah, but you've got everything you need. Don't get me wrong. You've got absolutely everything you need.
Did you freeze there, Lori?
Oh, you froze. Oh, Ted, you froze. Am I unfrozen? Is everybody frozen?
Oh, you froze for a bit there, Lori.
So did you. I think we all froze for a second there. Yeah, no, but I absolutely love the ship, and it's got everything you need, and a really nice library. Actually, I have to say they have a really, really nice resource library on board as well. All right, any other questions from the people who are here?
Hi, guys. I haven't got a question, just a few observations. Hey, Ted. Hi, Laurie, and everybody
Hi.
else. And hi from Perth in Western Australia. It's about 11 p.m. tonight.
Oh, thanks for coming from so far away.
Oh, no, I needed a shot in the arm of inspiration. Look, I've travelled with Cheesemans on a few trips to Antarctica now. I think I first went down 10 years ago, and I didn't expect it to capture my heart the way that it did. And in that time, I've been down a few times, and I've travelled on a few ships, and they've all been quite similar in that they've all been research ships originally. So if people are wondering how comfortable they're going to be, they're extraordinarily comfortable. As you say, they're not pretty, but it's kind of, you feel like you're on an expedition because these are scientific research vessels. All I can say is that the beds are very comfortable, the doonas are very comfortable. You're really only there to sleep. There's too much to do and see. And, you know, the thing that I really noticed with the way that Cheesemans run their trips is that they honour their commitment to maximise as much time as you want in the field. But if you're tired, then they've got zodiacs that go back on the hour every hour. You can really come and go however you want. And if you want to get out there at 8 in the morning and stay there till 4 in the afternoon, you can. I don't know too many people that have. But it's just an amazing opportunity to really be part of it. And I can't really say how it affects me, just that it does, and that every time I go, I see something different. And I can't wait to get back again. In fact, there's probably a 5% chance I might be able to make this trip. I'm actually going on the one later on in the year to South Georgia, which we should have done in 2021, but for obvious reasons it didn't happen. So at least I've got one down, but this one's is a fantastic time. I've been on one at this time, and there's so many whales and so many penguins, and the weather's usually really good. And I still haven't seen a whale breach, so I'm going down until I do.
Well, thank you so much for your insight and feedback. And yeah, I mean, there is something about Antarctica. It happened for me. Ted commented on it. You know, you get there, it changes you. It's one of the reasons why I founded the Antarctic Experience, was to bring together this community and share these experiences. And you're right, the time of year, it's funny you say you're going with them to Antarctica and South Georgia, another amazing trip. That's in October, which is a totally different time of the year. So, you know, at that time of the year, you've got lots of snow on the ground, potential to even see sea ice at that time of the year. Penguins are just kind of coming back, starting to build their nests, where, you know, the whales, in October, yeah, there's still some whales there, but not at the abundance that there are. This expedition is February 20th to March 9th, as we mentioned, sort of the tail end of the season. And we've got big fluffy penguin chicks that are, you know, fledging and running around, chasing their parents for food, learning how to swim, which is just, if you've never seen that in person, it's just, you know, make me like, I could watch that for hours and hours and hours. And then of course, a higher chance of seeing whales. So maybe you can join on both. Maybe.
Well, yeah, yes, that's we'll see. That's the plan anyway. That's why I wanted to sit in and listen. But,
great.
Yeah.
Any other questions? Ted, someone asked about a typical day. Tell me about your typical day
schedule. So yeah. The evening before, at the end of dinner, we'll give you the plan for the day. And if there was a typical day, which varies all over the place, but breakfast usually, I mean, you know, if it is not a traveling day, which, you know, in this case, we're sort of a couple of days of sea time to the Antarctic Peninsula, and lots of lectures, kind of morning, evening opportunities for lecture on the way there, lots of learning time with the wildlife, watching out from the bridge and such. and then we are on the Antarctic Peninsula, so might have breakfast at 7, start landing at 8 o'clock, and we'll have that landing time be as long as possible, 8 to noon, say. Last zodiac back, so leaving shore at noon, such that we can have lunch on at 12:30, and then reposition the ship, start landing again at 2 o'clock, and stretch that on out. Sometimes the repositioning takes longer, but so 2:30, and then landing on out until, you know, dinner might start at 7. So and so onshore until 6:30, pretty much last zodiac operations, or 6 o'clock, that kind of thing. Depending on the light and circumstance, we might do a before breakfast landing and skew things a bit, or we might do an after dinner landing, really try to maximize the time. Oftentimes, especially because of the season, will be zodiac cruising only for one of the landings, or maybe even both. But some of these sites where you have this just incredible seascape, icebergs and you know, glaciers tumbling down, no place to land. So we'll just go from the ship and zodiac cruise and come back to the ship. Other times there'll be landing where there's a zodiac cruise option from the shore, so you can be on land and hang out with the penguins, have your quiet time there, or turn around and get on a zodiac from there, and zodiac cruise split, do some of each. We'll have, so in that typical landing time, there's guides ashore. Some are serving sort of safety and management functions, but there are also some will be there available. So we might have a photographer who's doing, you know, a bit of a photography walk or a special workshop like that, or just available to discuss the biology of the animals and so on. What else to say about a typical day? Yeah, that's kind of it. During landing operations, we usually don't have much in the way of shipboard programs. Like, yeah, we'll talk about the day a bit, but not like, okay, let's go to the lecture room, because quite frankly, I'd rather have that time as an opportunity in the field. Rather than, you know, okay, you've just been in Antarctica, but now let's all gather in a little room and talk about Antarctica. But you know, because all of our staff are there available to discuss stuff. And then on the way back across the Drake at the end of the trip, again, a whole lot of lectures additionally, and a recap, kind of group slideshow, revisiting the trip and so on. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you. All right. If anyone else has any questions, now's your chance. Otherwise, I'm going to share a few of the bonuses that you guys will get through the Antarctic Experience, and from me, if you decide that you want to book this trip. Okay. Now remember, you can unmute yourself at any time and jump in for a question. But while I'm doing that, I'm just going to go ahead and share with you bonuses that you'll get if you decide to book. So I am, as you know, as being a member of the Antarctic Experience or our other bucket list booked community, I'm super into education and helping you guys prepare for your expedition, and being kind of with you from, you know, while you're dreaming about Antarctica to when you've helping you book an expedition, to preparing for your trip, and then of course everything beyond when you get home. So to make sure that you're supported every step of the way, I've got some super special bonuses that I'm going to give people who decide to go on this expedition. First one is my personal packing and prep list. Now, in our bucket list community, we do have some packing lists in there, which are great, but this one's going to be my very personal one, my checklist, my packing list, and I'll give you some recommendations for gear that I find to be particularly helpful. The next bonus that I'm going to give you guys is how to prepare your phone for Antarctica. Most people don't think about this. And this is everything from, how to get it set up to be away from 24/7 Wi-Fi, any apps that I like, but just the general kind of how to get yourself prepared on your phone to go to Antarctica, because your phone can be a really big asset for Antarctica. There's a lot of really cool things that you can use your phone for, which brings me to bonus number 3. I loved, Ted, in your last video of, the whale mugging, everyone's got their iPhones out. I didn't see big cameras in there. And I recently, a few years ago, started teaching people about how to maximize your phone for photography in Antarctica. Now, this isn't just like what all the buttons do, but this is specifically for Antarctica, like the fastest ways to access your camera, how to deal with your camera with gloves on, all the different settings, where you should put your settings, how you should keep your settings, how you can organize your photos, how you can deal with these photos along with your big camera. So I've had a lot of great feedback on that course, and I wanted to bring it to you guys. So I will be helping you prepare your phone. Now, I'm an iPhone person, but it does work with all these tips, work with any phone. So basically bonuses are very phone centric, but I am finding more and more that, that is the camera people have on them at all times. That could be the ID book that you have on you on deck. So we're going to focus our bonuses on getting you supported and prepared with these different items. And then if you see number 4, if you decide to book, give you a month. I know this is a big commitment. This isn't something you just go by lightly. This is an investment of course, your time and of course of your money. But if you do decide to book through the Antarctic Experience, we're going to give you a care package with a whole bunch of goodies. I don't know if you've been in our shop, but we sell buffs and stickers and all sorts of good stuff. So you'll be getting yourself like a nice little care package if you decide to go ahead with this expedition. And if this expedition just doesn't fit into your schedule, again, the dates are February 20th to March 9th. And you decide to book another expedition, one of the South Georgia expeditions with Ted here, I'll give you those bonuses as well. And if neither of those fit in, we are here, myself and my partner, Heather and Lauren, we are here to help you find the right expedition for you at the time of year, and also with other great guides. I mean, between Heather, Lauren, and I, and all of our friends, I mean, we've been working in the industry for a very, very long time. We know lots and lots of cool people, and we are sure to make sure that you are sailing with the best people that we know on only trips that we'd send our friends and family on. So I guess with that said,
I can attest to that.
oh, thanks, Donna.
You know me, I like to watch anything because I can never get enough Antarctica.
I can never get enough Antarctica either. I feel like I love having these communities because I get to wake up and be inspired by Antarctica every day. So I guess with that, I'm super happy that you guys stuck around for the whole time. We've been together for almost an hour now. And if there aren't any last questions, anyone?
Thank you. Take care. And everybody, if you haven't been, book it. I'm going back.
Awesome. Thank you so much for your time, Ted.
Thank you, Ted. Thank you, Lori. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks. Bye-bye. Have a great day.
Bye now.